but they were victorious in every area that God was with them in. So go ahead. It's going to be hard, but you will be victorious. Hey guys, it is December. Oh my gosh, it is the last month of the year. Or if when you're watching this, it isn't December, don't give up. Don't give up, because God has so much in store for you. And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit and give you a little bit of encouragement to keep moving forward, to keep going. I love what Galatians 6:9 says, and it says that don't grow weary and well doing. For in due season you will reap if you do not give up. Don't get weary. Don't grow weary. For in due season you will reap if you don't give up. But before I get into this and give you a little bit of encouragement of what I was reading, let me introduce myself. Hey guys, this is Sonja from SonjaW Coaching, where we help overwhelmed, multi-passionate women learn how to acknowledge, live, execute, and win at their dreams. We're all about making sure that your dreams meet reality here at SonjaW. Now listen, I'm excited. I'm over the moon because this past year has been a whirlwind. And listen, I'm a little tired. But one thing that I know is that I can't give up. And I don't want you to give up on what you've been doing either. So I want to give you a little bit of encouragement. I was actually reading in Joshua. Actually, I was like thinking about something. I don't even know what made me think about it. But I don't know if you know this story, but the people of Israel, they were going around in the wilderness for 40 years because they messed up, they messed up. We can talk about that in a different story. But they messed up and they were traveling around this desert for 40 years. But God provided for them every single day. It gave them manna, and he gave him quail. And this manna was like their sustenance that they had every day, that they were outside of the promise that God has for them. But then the minute that they got into the promised land, the minute that they went and ate of the produce of their promise, the manna stopped. Now, this made me kind of think about it. Now, this was before they fought any battles. This was before they did anything. And there's like a whole couple of books of the Bible about all of their exploits, about all the things that they did after the manna stopped, after they got into the promised land. And you know what that made me think is that it gave me like three things. It gave me three things that really hit me, and it made me think about it. Just because you made it into the promise doesn't mean that the fight is over. Doesn't mean that you can sit back on your laurels. Doesn't mean that you can give up. And also, it does not mean that you should give up if there are obstacles, because you're already in the promise. Let me break it down a little bit for you. I love this. It says in Joshua 5:11-12, it says, "And the day after the Passover, on the very day they ate of the produce of the land, unleavened cakes and parched grain, and the manna ceased the day after they ate the produce of the land. And there was no longer manna for the people of Israel, but they ate of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year." So it's basically saying after they walked across the Jordan, after they went over there, they circumcised all the men, and then they had Passover, and they ate the grain that came from the land, the manna stopped. And again, this was before all of those famous battles, before the wall of Jericho fell, before they fought all these other people and cleared out the land. The manna, the sustenance that God gave them stopped because they were in the promise and because they were able to eat of the produce of the promise. And honestly, they still had to work. I think that's the main thing that really got me in this, is that they still had to work. And I think sometimes when we think that we got to the promise, when we think that it's all over, we are like, yo, I thought I was where I was supposed to be. Why am I fighting? Why do I still have to keep working so hard? I thought I made it. Well, you made it, but there's still work to be done. And I want to encourage you that you are going to be able to get it done. Let me give you 3 things that it made me think about. 1, sustenance will come when the promise is fulfilled. God gave them manna because they were not in the promise. God gave them manna because they were in the desert and there was nothing to eat. There's nothing in a desert. Desert is dry. You got some real dry shrubs. That's the word. Got this real dry shrubs. You got sand everywhere. You got cactus. If you notice, I got a cactus back here if you can see it. Like, they did not have anything that they could eat that would actually give them the nourishment that they needed. So God provided. But when they got into the promise, that provision went away. Why? Because they were in the promise. The promise was the land of milk and honey. The promise was where they would get everything that they needed. They didn't need God to give them free food any longer because it was there. When you get into your promise, the sustenance, the fruit will be there to sustain you. It will give you what you need. You may feel like you're still working hard. You may feel like you still got all these things to do, but there will be fruit. There will be something that you can eat. You know, I was thinking about this with my own journey on YouTube and all these different things. Like, from the beginning of it, there was just random pieces of fruit that made sense, that put the things together. And I was able to see the promise in this land, right? So I encourage you, look for the fruit, right? It may be hard work, but there is going to be fruit that happens in that land that you're in. The second thing is, you still have to claim the land. Just like I said, Israel was in the promised land, but they still had to fight for it. They still had to do the work. They had to clear the land. They had to fight battles. They had to do all of these things, but they were in the promise. They were in the place that God said they were supposed to be in, but they still worked. So when you're in the promise, you're going to have to work. There is still going to be some hard work to do, but you're in the promised. You're in the promised land. So get to work. Keep working. And then it may seem hard, but you will be victorious with God. Every single battle they won because God told them that they would win. Even in the times where they lost small battles, they won when they backtracked and went to God. And actually what's so funny is that throughout this story, the only time that they really messed up and had to like help people or like stick with people that they weren't supposed to was when they went out on their own and did not listen to God. There was a group of people who tricked them, thought that, and they made them think that they were from this faraway land when they was just down the street. And they tricked them into making a covenant with them. So God had to honor, or they had to honor that covenant, right? And they did that without God. They didn't ask God. They was like, oh, they far away. They not in this land. They're not from Canaan. They're not from the promised land. So we can make covenant with them. That's okay. They did that outside of God. And that's a problem. So anyway, I won't go into that because that's not what this is about. But they were victorious in every area that God was with them in. So go ahead. It's going to be hard, but you will be victorious. So I gave you those 3 things. All of those things to say. Yes, sustenance will be there. Yes, you will still have to claim that land. You're still going to have to fight. But the battles, they're going to be a victorious battle because you're with God. So all of it, just to say, don't give up. If God said it, it's going to be yours. That was horrible English. If God said it, it is going to be yours. I love what Joshua 1 says. And this was before they even got into the land, before they even really saw it. Joshua 1 verses 2 and 3 said, Moses, my servant, is dead. First of all, how blunt God can be sometimes is hilarious. But anyway, he said, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you to you, just as I promised Moses. God was saying that I had already given you the land. I've already given you everything. He didn't tell them about the battles. It's okay. But he did tell them to be strong and courageous. I feel like he was forewarning them. He was like, listen now. Be strong and courageous because you're going to need it, right? But the beautiful thing about it is that he said that I have given it to you. He's already given you the land. He's already given you the things that you were promised. All you have to do is believe it and stand in it. Believe in it and fight for it. Do not give up. Don't grow weary in well-doing, because in the due season you will reap if you do not give up. Okay? So please don't do it. Don't give up. God has so much for you. And as you're living this intentional life, go ahead and look for the promises that God has for you. It's going to be good. It's going to be transformative. I am so excited because listen, we still got a couple of good weeks to do something big this year, okay? We still got a couple of good weeks. So make sure that you are on it, that you are focused, that you are looking for that sustenance, that you are finding your victories because you are with God, and that you are fighting and you are claiming what God has said is yours, okay? Don't grow weary. Don't grow weary in well-doing, because in this due season, you will reap. You will reap. Okay? So I hope this encourages you. I hope that you are going to run headlong into what God has called you to do, just because you know that God has already given it to you. I hope that you have an awesome day wherever you are. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead, like the video, share it, do whatever you got to do, okay? So that more people can know to not grow weary, to don't give up, to keep fighting, and to finish well. All right? Have an awesome day, y'all, wherever you are.